Do I regret purchasing the Aprilia RS 660? Keep watching to see what my experience has been so far. What's up, y'all? It's XIII. Welcome back to the channel. Usually I'd say welcome to another sunny day in California, but obviously you can see it's a little gloomy and it's drizzling, so let's get on the bike and take off because I'm getting soaked out here. So today's video, just like my previous MT-03 review, in this review I'm gonna hit you with some pros, some cons, what I've enjoyed most so far, and what I wish was different with the Aprilia RS 660. This experience comes from the first 600 miles or so, just regular street riding. So here's some quick overall info that you could probably find in the brochure, Google, whatever it may be. So Aprilia RS 660 is a 659cc parallel twin engine. Yes, they did round up to 660 to get that number. Does it really matter? Not really. But wet weight is about 401 pounds. I think in their official record they say it's less, but based on what people have measured, it's actually around 401 pounds. Still pretty lightweight, I'd say. It does have a wet clutch. It has a 4-gallon tank. It has one piston, 220 millimeter disc brakes in the rear, Brembo radial mount, 4 piston calipers, 320 millimeter discs with Corning ABS in the front. KYB inverted fork, spring preload, rebound dampening adjustable in the front. KYB monoshock, spring preload and rebound dampening adjustable in the rear. Has about 100 horsepower and 49 foot-pounds of torque. Colors, comes in multiple colorways: acid gold, apex black, lava red, and the newer limited edition stars and stripes, which is limited and only available for the 2022 models so far. Miles per gallon. So they quote 57 miles per gallon, but that is probably with very conservative writing. So next up, we have the pros. First pro would definitely be engine. It just feels so smooth, sounds amazing. To be honest, sometimes it almost sounds like an RSV4. I don't know how the engineers at Aprilia did it, but mad props to them. It has this induction sound at the lower revs, and then at the higher end, oh man, chef's kiss. Next up, we got technology. This bike is loaded. It has a lot of cool tech: lean sensor riding aids, wheelie control, ABS, quick shifter up and down, engine brake mapping, cruise control, has different maps that you can choose from: commuter, dynamic, and individual, which is the one where you can actually customize and make it your own. If you love tech, you're gonna like this bike. Whether all this tech is really needed, that's a different question. Next up, we have the chassis. It feels very stable, especially during turns. The bike literally just feels like it's on rails. Very different from my previous MT-03. Suspension-wise, I think this is a pro. For me, it feels pretty solid the way it's set up. Not too bouncy, not too stiff. It's adjustable to some degree. I really only have the MT-03 to kind of compare it to, and based on that, I really like the suspension. I know people that have been riding longer or track their bikes, or just in general take riding more seriously, have some gripes about the suspension not being fully adjustable, but I think for the average rider that's just trying to have a good time, the suspension is great. Next up, we have ergonomics. Leaned over, not super sport bike lean. The pegs are higher than naked bikes, but not super sport high. So kind of gives you an in-between between super sport, aggressive, and then the naked track bike stance. So it's aggressive without the full commitment of a track bike. It's amazing for riders on the street, kind of your go-to bike for everything. Next up, we have it's the comfortability of the bike. It's extremely comfortable. The OEM seat has so much cushion, combined with the ergonomics. You can ride for quite a long time, no doubt about that, all while being very comfortable. Looks are subjective, but I gotta hand it to Aprilia. This is one sexy looking bike. From the cool headlights to the panels and the exhaust design, simply beautiful. But No bike is without its flaws, right? It's almost perfect, but still got some cons. So starting the cons, first up on my list is the quick shifter. It's finicky, it's not smooth, especially from first to second. Downshifts at lower RPMs don't really work. Then we have the mirrors. Oh my god. These mirrors, and I'm specifically talking about the ones on the Aprilia RS 660 that you buy in America, or maybe even North America. The mirrors shake so much on this bike. When you are on the freeway, you literally cannot see what is behind you. It just looks like a blur. Yeah, you know, a lot of people joke about this, like, oh, if you're going that slow, like, blah, 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 blah. The usual trolls. But, you know, in California, where you're splitting traffic, lane splitting legally, and you're on the freeway, there's a lot of cops out. And I think, for me, that's been one of the key things. Matter of fact, I was riding on my way home from work, and there was a cop behind me, and I was cruising at, like, you know, 70 to 80, but it would have been really nice to know that he was legit right behind me. I didn't know until I had to slow down for my exit that was coming up, and then the mirrors cleared up enough or stopped vibrating enough for me to actually see that he was behind me. Other reasons, you know, just safety reasons, especially when you're like lane splitting, it's really helpful to know what's coming up behind you. So I don't know why Aprilia made these mirrors like this. I heard the European version, they vibrate less, perhaps because they don't have the turn signal integrated into the mirror. But still looking into a way to, you know, fix this, but it is what it is. Next up, we have the windshield. The windshield works. Yes, it does provide some wind coverage, wind blockage, whatever you want to call it. But for me, being, you know, my upper body is on the taller side, all of that wind just goes straight to like my upper chest and my head. And that makes navigating wind, you know, somewhat more difficult. Compared to a naked bike, the wind was everywhere, so it's more predictable. You know where it's going to be. It's smoother. But for this, you can get a little finicky. So perhaps just getting a taller windshield for me personally would be a better fit, but con nonetheless for me. Then we have the flat spot in the rev range. So when you're between like, you know, anywhere between like 5K to 7K RPM, you give it gas and it doesn't really go very far, or it doesn't do much. So perhaps with the tune, I did hear that Aprilia itself offers like a race tune that, you know, that AF1 sells, which is a dealership. But other than that, a tune would probably get rid of this, but it does come with this flat spot from factory. And then it can also run a little hot. It gets a little toasty. So if you're in warmer weather and you're planning on riding during the summer on the streets, be ready for that. It can run hot. Next and last, the last con that I have is, unfortunately, the cost. Especially out the door with Aprilia dealer fees. Here in California, out the door brand new, you're looking at like $13,500 or $14K out the door. The Aprilia dealer fees, they ain't cheap compared to like when you go to like a Japanese bike dealer like Honda, Yamaha. The dealer fees are a lot higher and typically non-negotiable. So that's kind of, it's not really like a true con, but it takes away from, you know, the experience overall, especially when you're used to purchasing a Japanese bike brand new, driving it off the lot. If you're buying used, you know, no worries there, not a concern. And that's why I buy used, so I don't have to deal with those dealer fees. So next up, we have, what have I enjoyed the most about this bike? Definitely the sound. The sound of this bike is absolutely orgasmic, and the tech, it just adds to that. It's just butter. What I wish was different, you already know, the mirrors. I went on a rant about it already. They vibrate so much, and yeah, it's just not good. Some solutions that I've seen is just people swapping out for the European mirrors and then just getting the race map that Aprilia has. What that does is it basically integrates the turn signals into the headlights themselves. People have gotten like the up map to do the same thing basically. I've seen some possible solutions of people sticking like rubber or some foam pieces between the mirror and the mounting points. I'm not sure how quite exactly that works, but I don't know, man. Gotta do something about these mirrors. So who is this bike for? Someone looking to get their second bike, that's for sure. Someone who wants a bike that can do it all moderately well, meaning commuter, long distance trips, canyon runs, tracking. It's kind of a jack of all trades but a master of none kind of thing, if you feel me. Then we have someone who's like, you're a rider that avoids sports bikes due to the aggressive ergos. This is a solid place to start, I'd say. Is this a bike for beginners? I would say no, but could be some exceptions out there. I'll make a video on this for sure, so stay tuned for that. Overall, I absolutely love this bike. It has been incredibly fun, and it gets a lot of looks. Can't wait to see how the experience changes since I got the first service out of the way. Anyways, y'all, we're at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, thumbs if you enjoyed it, subs if you loved it, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.